Hello everyone. Making a video regarding a manual transmission, the pros and the cons. As you could see here, I have there's three pedals. Unlike an automatic car, there's only two pedals, gas and brake. Here you have on the left you have a clutch, and in the middle you have the brake. On the right, on the far right you have the gas, and then on the far left you have a footrest. So that's for those of you that don't know how it looks like. Then you have the manual shifter. There's a lot of glare here, but it's actually it's a 6-speed and there's reverse. And let's see, there's reverse, and then you have your emergency brake like an automatic car. Some cars have just buttons now. There's a button, so this one has usually the manual transmission cars, they have e-brakes, emergency brake that you pull. So I want to go over the pros and the cons of manual transmission. So let's go over the pros or the plus. So the manual transmission is actually faster if you're planning to race or for like a sports car. It accelerates faster and it has faster top speed if you know what you're doing, and if you're a fast shifter, right? Then automatic, obviously the automatic shifts for you, so it's a little slower, but it's more consistent. So like if you're shifting slow or you're like a new to manual transmission, then you might be kind of slow if you're trying to race someone. Also, you have more control of your car, because you actually control the RPMs, and when you're trying to shift the gears, if you want to shift it like low RPMs to kind of save the gas, get better gas mileage, or if you want to shift it at high RPMs, where you have, which means rounds per minute. If you have high RPMs, you have more power, more torque, so it's faster. So you have more control over the car. Also, if your starter or battery is dead on a manual transmission car, you could actually push the car. You don't have to push it fast, maybe like 5 miles an hour. And once you push the car, you'll just put it in gear and pop the clutch, and the car is going to start, and it's gonna start, and the engine will start, and you could drive your car, and then you could drive it to mechanic or whatever, or just keep driving it. So it's much more reliable than automatic car. There's less gears. There's like you got 6 gears. Well, on my car has 6 gears, and you have the reverse and you have neutral, so there's probably like 8 gears or 7 gears in there. So there's like maybe 8 moving parts in your transmission, where in the automatic you have like over 40 little small gears that are shifting by belts or chains, depending on what the car is. So it's not as reliable, because you have those small little gears shifting, and then obviously if you're abusing your car, then those little gears will have more chances of getting messed up. So manual transmission is much more reliable. Also, it's much better on gas, because you could just keep it at low RPMs. And it's more reliable. It requires less maintenance because there's no transmission fluid, but there's a clutch fluid. So so it's less maintenance, it's more reliable. Also, the huge plus is you could stop the car without using brakes. So if your brakes go out, you can just shift the gears. You downshift them. So which means if you're driving in 5th gear, then you go from 5th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd, and so on. And then as you downshift, the engine will slow down your car to about 10 miles an hour, and after 10 miles an hour you could just pull emergency brake, and then your car will stop. So if you have an emergency, you could stop the car by downshifting. And you could just, that's what I was saying, you have more control. A lot of times people, they downshift to slow down their car and use their brakes, so your brakes don't wear out as much. So that's what I mean by you have more control and it's more reliable. Where on the automatic car you cannot push start your car. Like I said before, if your car dies from a starter or your battery is dead, you have to tow the car or replace the battery or replace the part. You cannot push start automatic car. You cannot push start hybrid car or electric car. It's impossible. So that's why manual transmission car is much more reliable. Let's see. Then, right. So automatic car, you also cannot stop the car if your brakes go out. I guess you could pull the e-brake, and that might stop your car if you have an emergency, or it might just break. Your emergency brake could just go out, and you'll keep on going and crash into something. I think you could downshift in the automatic car by using some of the usually automatic cars. They have like the first and second and third gear, and then you have the drive. So I guess if you just downshift from the drive to like the third gear, second and first, then your engine will stop the car. But I believe that could actually cause damage to your transmission. So yeah, so that's a minus, of course, for automatic car. So that's a plus for manual transmission, that you could stop the car without using pretty much any brakes if your brakes go out. Then I already mentioned it gets better gas mileage. Also, manual transmission is less expensive to purchase brand new. It's like, I believe, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 less than automatic. So yeah, those are all your pros and pluses of having a manual transmission car. Now let's quickly go over the minuses or the cons of the manual transmission. So manual transmission wears out your knee faster because you have to shift the vehicle, the transmission yourself, the clutch, and you have to actually press the clutch all the way. So it's not like pressing a gas or a brake just slightly. You actually have to push the clutch in all the way for it to engage. Otherwise, you're gonna burn out your clutch, and it's gonna cost you hundreds of dollars to replace it. So you have to keep pushing the clutch all the way in. And if you're driving in stop and go traffic, then that's gonna actually wear out your knee eventually, your joint. It actually wears out your meniscus and your cartilage with time. It's going to take a long time depending on your genetics and your knees. For those people that already have knee problems, like I do, like I used to be an athlete and I used to run and jump on concrete and just lift heavy weights, so my knees got worn out anyways. Now when I drive manual transmission, my knee really hurts, and because of that I have to sell or trade my car in for automatic transmission car, and because of that I'm going to lose a lot of money that I invested into my manual transmission car. So so that's the problem, is my knee is just worn out, and it's not a matter of question if it's going to happen, it's a matter of question when it's going to happen. So either way, if you drive your car that's a manual transmission a lot in the traffic, your left knee is going to get worn out and it's going to start aching, especially in the cold weather, like in the winter or fall. So that's a huge minus. And of course, you have to use both feet. You know, you have to clutch with the left, and with the right you have to press the gas and press the brake, and then you have to even them out. So there's more work. You have to be a much better driver to drive a manual than automatic, because there's more pedals involved and the shifter that I already showed you. So that's also, you have to be a very good driver. You can't like use your right hand, or so you have less hands to use, because you need your right hand to shift the gear shifter. So it's more difficult to drive the car if it's manual. Also, it becomes a little more dangerous or very difficult to drive the car if it's parked on the hill, or if you come to a full stop on the hill, because the car starts rolling back as soon as you let go of the brake. Unlike automatic car, you could just press the gas or just keep the foot in the brake, and if you're on top of the hill, when you press the gas, the car is going to just start rolling forward. On the manual transmission car, it's going to roll backwards as soon as you release the brake. So you have to be really quick when you're going to take off your foot from the brake and put it on the gas and shift the clutch. You got to be really quick. Otherwise, the car is going to roll back and you might hit someone in the back of you, the next car that's waiting, that's stopped behind you on the stop sign or red light if you're on top of the hill. So that creates a problem. If you live like in a hilly area where it has a lot of hills or mountains, it's a problem. So you have to be a really good driver. It took me like a few weeks or even a few months to get this to perfection, to drive it perfectly. Another problem is if you let go of the clutch, or you're not driving it properly, and you let go of the clutch when you're not supposed to, your car is going to stall, which means the car is going to just jerk and is going to shut off while you're driving. So you have to be really good and you have to know what you're doing. So otherwise, if you're not giving it gas and you have it in gear and you let go of the clutch, the car is going to stall. So the only way for the car not to stall, you actually have to put it in neutral when you not like driving the car, when it's just sitting in traffic and you take off your foot off the clutch. In order for it not to stall, if the car is in gear, it will stall. So you have to actually put it in neutral first, which means you have to, every time you gotta press the clutch. To go through any gear or put it in neutral, you have to press clutch. You have to press it all the way, which wears out your knee, like I said before. Yep, so the car stalls a lot. Obviously, automatic cars do not stall, so that's another problem. And then also your clutch gets worn out if you're not driving it properly, or like you're a new person, you're a rookie driving manual transmission, then it's going to wear out your clutch, which is going to cost you hundreds of dollars to replace the clutch. Also, it is going to mess up your transmission if you don't know how to properly drive a manual transmission, which, transmission is very expensive. I think we're talking about few thousand dollars to fix. So that's why you have to be a good driver, and you have to know how to drive a manual transmission car in order not to mess up your clutch and your transmission and not to blow up your engine. Because if you keep revving the engine in higher PMs and you're not shifting the gear, eventually it's going to blow up. So something's going to break. Yeah, so you have to know what you're doing. So I would recommend starting to learn on some crappy car that's like a beater, some car that you don't really care about. So you can't just like start. I would not recommend driving on a new car that's manual transmission, because you definitely might mess up the car. So yeah, it's much more difficult to learn how to drive a manual transmission car compared to automatic. That's also a minus. Then let me see if I went over everything here. I believe that's all I had to say. So yeah, I hope this video helps. It's your decision if you want to, or if you think about buying a manual transmission car, or if you're thinking of learning how to drive a manual transmission car. Hopefully my video will help you to let you know what the minuses and pluses and cons and the pros. And actually pretty soon, in a few years, I think there's not going to be any manual transmission cars manufactured, because everyone is switching to electric cars, and there's no manual transmissions in electric cars. So that's going to be phased out. It's going to become a dinosaur. So I think from my experience, the best thing to do is just to have both. To own a manual transmission car as like a backup, or just like something to play around with, or like a fun car, because it's more fun to drive a manual, unless you're sitting in a gridlock traffic, or there's a lot of traffic where you constantly have to be shifting, which gets annoying. That's another minus. It gets annoying to shift when you're sitting in the bumper to bumper traffic. it gets really annoying. That's another huge minus. So I think these cars will get phased out, unfortunately, because like a lot of people don't know how to drive them, and there's only a few people that know how to drive them, so only very few people buy them. And obviously if the people don't buy a car, then the manufacturer is not going to make any money, so they'll discontinue these cars soon. So that's what my idea, or just my opinion on manual transmission cars versus automatic transmission. Well, thank you for watching my video, and everyone have a good day and stay safe.